Hey there, it's Lucas Cadden. And I was thinking about something recently that I wanted to kind of mull over a little bit, and that was whether or not the Biden campaign now, or Biden administration, is going to do something about Scientology's tax exempt status. And it's certainly in the community of Scientology whistleblowers and related organizations and things like that. It's been a topic of discussion quite a bit. It's been on the aftermath. Mike and Lee have talked about it for sure, and plenty of other people have addressed this in various ways, including mentioning some of the reasons why they are operating as a business and a cult and as a racketeering organization and things like that, rather than a church, rather than a religion. And we'll go over some of those specifics, that delineate the differences between there, but also more specifically, the difference between hope that the Trump administration would do something and now hope that the Biden administration will do something about it. And a few key things here. The Scientologists as a whole tried really hard to get into Trump's inner circle, and in many different ways. They courted heavily former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, for example, who spoke at the Fort Harrison Hotel, which is a Scientology-owned property in Clearwater. She supported some different activities. Various Scientologists held fundraisers and other events for her and honored her with different things. She then, of course, became very vocal and supportive and even joined the Trump team during his impeachment process and that sort of thing. So there's a connection through Pam Bondi, for one. Another one is through billionaire Trish Duggan. She's the richest remaining Scientologist, and there's pictures of her, I think, standing next to Trump, for example, and certainly her activities in that arena. But also, just general Scientologists in general are more conservative leaning as a whole. And one of the key things of why they support Republicans over Democrats, which, by the way, I'm neutral. I'm neither Republican or Democrat, so I'm not saying anything necessarily positive or negative about either one, just as a disclaimer there. But so Scientologists generally support Republicans, and one of the biggest things is certainly because they want to keep as much of their tax dollars as possible, and that's one part. But really, there's a key part that L. Ron Hubbard talked about as one of the reasons for Scientology, and that is to make the able more able, or to help the able become more able. In other words, they want people who can already pay for services to then pay for more services. It's all about money for them. There really is no other agenda other than to amass as much money and control and power as possible. So they want people who can already pay to continue on paying for more. So to take the able to make them more able. They are against social programs that give money away to other people. And unlike other churches, Scientology doesn't have like feed the homeless, clothe children in need, things like that. Their front groups are just that. They're actually funded by individual Scientologists for any kind of goodwill, and they pose for pictures, and it's all smoke and mirrors. They're not actually out there doing public benefit things or giving to charity or being a real charity in that regard. They don't want their money to be given away. They want to amass more of it. So if Democrats have programs that support more social activities and require public funding to do so, then they're generally against that. Because again, they want to keep more money. They don't want to give it away. And that's really the biggest reason why they lean more right than left. But even in, very, liberal heavy Hollywood, for example, Scientologists like Kirstie Alley, who has been a very vocal advocate of Trump, for example, even though nobody really listens to her, she made some headlines recently in doing so. And that's a departure from a lot of the scene there. But there's also some other ties there to the Trump administration in Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. Antonio Ortega talks about this and other places as well, where Steve Mnuchin's film funding, Rat Pack and Dune Entertainment, at one point, their North American operations was headed up by infamous Scientologist Tommy Davis and his connection through Australian billionaire James Packer. So there's yet another connection to the previous administration. And so, of course, nothing was going to happen then with all these ties and all this support and all this money flowing to them and all the rah, 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 that kind of stuff. So Biden comes in, and as he was doing his vice president search, remember, one of the people that was at sort of the top of the list was Karen Bass in California. Well, it, of course, came out that she spoke at a couple of different Scientology events and lent her support of those things, including openings of new churches, and I say new buildings. And, and so she just got raked in the media because of that. And he quickly distanced himself, of course, as he should, as anybody should. They're not, you don't want to be tied to that politically or otherwise. So coming down the line, is the Biden administration going to do something now about the tax-exempt status of the Church of Scientology? Because one of the biggest differences between Scientology, for example, and Mike Rinder does a great job bringing this up, and Leah Remini and others, is that because of that First Amendment, quote-unquote, protection that they have, they think they have leeway to do anything they want and get away with it. And it comes out in all these lawsuits and investigations where they go, no, that's our religious freedom to do these things, to stalk and harass and hire private investigators and spend millions on attorneys to try and crush people who have come out and exposed what it is that they're doing, exposed their criminal enterprises, exposed their racketeering, exposed their lies, exposed all these things. They spend millions and millions and millions of dollars every single year to attack these people. That's not very church-like. So, there's lots of other things. There's the inurement of David Miscavige and the way he's treated versus all the other Sea Org members. There's so many different things. Because even though Scientology is becoming less and less significant in the world day by day, and they're the laughing stock of every joke, just about, they still have, $2-3 billion. Well, if you put that in a bank account and you're getting a modest interest rate on that, you can hang in there for a long time. So even though they may dwindle down to not much more than a whisper, they're still there, and they're still believing that they can do these things and have the quote-unquote protection of the First Amendment to do these things. Whereas somebody like Keith Raniere, who didn't form a religion, but instead it was a self-help group or a business, executive success program, that kind of thing, he gets 120 years in prison. So that's a key factor, that tax-exempt status, that recognition as a religion has to be stripped away for them to be prosecuted for many of the crimes that they are in fact guilty of, that have been exposed repeatedly and routinely and will continue to be exposed by many people out there. So if people ask what it is that you can do, that would be a huge thing is, let's try and lobby the Biden campaign to actually do something about their tax-exempt status so that they can be prosecuted for the things that have already been documented that they believe is their right to do behind their First Amendment religious rights. Take that away, and it's nothing more than a criminal enterprise. There you go. I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, suggestions, that kind of thing. And if you want, anytime, hit me up, lucascatton.com. Until then, take care.